This is Leader Time by FedNet, your podcast source for remarks by Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor during the 119th Congress. On March 4th, Thune discussed President Trump's address to Congress planned for that evening, processing his cabinet nominees, and digital payments regulations. The following material is protected by copyright.
Mr. President, this evening, President Trump will come to the Capitol to address Congress. And I'm looking forward to hearing the President discuss his accomplishments so far and outline his vision for our country. President Trump may have been in office for a matter of weeks, but he's already built a considerable record of success. And chief among his successes, of course, is the work he's been doing to confront illegal immigration and restore order to our southern border. Over the weekend, it emerged that there were just 8,450 encounters approximately at our southern border for the entire month of February, at least a 25-year low. That's a stunning turnaround, Mr. President. And put that number in perspective, under President Biden, the Border Patrol sometimes saw that number in a single day. It's incredible what President Trump has accomplished in just 6 weeks. And I haven't even mentioned how his administration has been making our community safer by arresting and deporting criminals here illegally. In just 6 weeks, they've taken a lot of dangerous people off of our streets. It all goes to show what's possible when you have a president committed to protecting our border and our nation's security. And of course, that's not all the president has accomplished during his first 6 weeks in office. Among other things, he has also been laying the groundwork for unleashing American energy. And while Democrats may not like to admit it, the United States is rapidly heading toward an energy crisis where we simply don't have the supply to meet the demand. As the Washington Post noted last March, and I quote, "Vast swaths of the United States are at risk of running short of power as electricity-hungry data centers and clean technology factories proliferate around the country, leaving utilities and regulators grasping for credible plans to expand the nation's creaking power grid," end quote. That's a pretty serious situation, Mr. President. And instead of taking steps to increase our energy supply, the Biden administration pushed us further toward crisis with measures designed to restrict conventional energy development and force Americans to adopt electric cars, putting a vast new burden on our electric grid. Well, fortunately, Mr. President, President Trump recognizes the precarious situation that we're facing. And he is already demonstrating his commitment to increasing our nation's supply and promoting a source, or I should say a secure and affordable energy future. And I look forward to hearing from him as he discusses the work he's been doing tonight. Mr. President, here in the Senate, we've been working to support President Trump's agenda, first and foremost by getting his cabinet in place. And I'm proud to report that we've confirmed 20 of the President's 22 cabinet nominees, a substantially faster pace of confirmations than in any of the 3 previous administrations. In addition to cabinet nominations, we've also been laying the groundwork for making the tax cuts we passed during the first Trump administration permanent, as well as delivering a transformational investment in our border, national, and energy security. And of course, we are currently working to overturn burdensome Biden administration regulations using the Congressional Review Act. This week, we're taking up 2 rules that infringe on Americans' financial freedom. First, we'll vote on Senator Cruz's resolution to stop the Biden administration's digital asset broker rule, which puts at risk the privacy and security of tens of millions of Americans who trade digital assets. This rule could also mean forfeiting American leadership in financial innovation by giving the advantage to foreign companies that do not have to comply with the rule and driving innovation overseas. Later this week, we'll vote on Senator Ricketts' resolution to prevent an unnecessary expansion of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB. The Biden administration made a last-ditch effort to increase government supervision of non-bank payment apps like Venmo and PayPal by expanding the CFPB's authority. But these types of apps are already regulated, and they accounted for just 1% of the CFPB's consumer complaints in 2023. Why add another layer of bureaucracy? Apparently, Democrats can't help but see innovation as an opportunity for regulation. All told, the Biden administration saddled Americans with $1.8 trillion in regulatory burdens. That's a big weight on the economy and on crucial industries like American energy. And we will continue our work to alleviate these burdens. Mr. President, the Biden administration left our nation facing a lot of challenges. But we are turning the page on the Biden administration's failed policies, and I firmly believe there is a brighter future ahead. And I look forward to hearing from President Trump tonight as he outlines his vision for American greatness.
Schumer took his leader time to focus on the address, Trump's promises as candidate, and his guests for the joint meeting.
So, Mr. President, tonight Donald Trump will address the nation before a joint session of Congress. This will be the 5th time Donald Trump speaks from the House chamber, and by now, the American people know just what to expect. They can expect Donald Trump to launch a deluge of mistruths and falsehoods. But tonight, we won't hear one peep from Donald Trump about his broken promise to bring inflation down on day one. We won't hear one syllable about how Donald Trump's policies are making inflation and the costs that average American families pay worse. So this morning, let's start here. Let's start about that here, starting with tariffs. Last night, for the first time in decades, the President of the United States imposed 25% tariffs on nearly all goods coming from Canada and Mexico. What does this mean for the American people? What do Donald Trump's tariffs mean for the American people? They're going to pay more. Everyday costs are about to become more expensive. It means, according to the CEO of Target, to take one example, consumers could see higher prices within days. This is not something 6 months out. That includes everything: price of gas, produce, cars, cheese, dairy products, coffee, even chocolate. American farmers are going to will pay more for fertilizer, which means food prices go up. New furniture will become more expensive as Canada is a major supplier of lumber. Refrigerators, washers, microwaves, laptops, smartphones, clothing, shoes, all will likely see increases. Hold on to your hat, Mr. and Mrs. America. When you bring it all together, the average U.S. household could see $2,000 in increased expenses a year. And that's a conservative estimate. Let me repeat that. The average American family, $2,000 more out of their pockets, their hard-earned dollars that they're struggling to stretch. And now another added increase, all that didn't have to happen because Donald Trump is imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico. It's been clear that in the past, when applied intelligently, precisely, tariffs can be a useful tool against adversaries that engage in unfair trade practices that harm American workers. The tariffs against China years ago are one example of this. But the situation today is completely different. It makes no sense to start a trade war with America's closest trade partners because the casualty of that trade war will be consumers and American households. So let's get it straight. Donald Trump's tariffs are a tax on working Americans to the tune of $2,000 or more a year. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Well, he says fentanyl, but less than 1% of the fentanyl that comes into the country comes from Canada. It's one of the ways they can close that budget hole when they take huge tax breaks for billionaires. This is another place where Donald Trump and the Republicans are raising your costs so they can cut taxes for billionaires. It's unbelievable. I don't think this is going to be seen very positively by the American people. Now let's talk about 1 month into the Trump administration. So on his first day in office, Donald Trump promised a golden age was coming over the horizon. But when Donald Trump speaks tonight, his promise of a golden age will feel like ancient history. So this morning, let's talk about Donald Trump's many broken promises. As a candidate, Donald Trump promised, when I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. He said grocery prices will come tumbling down, he said when he gets elected. Instead, what's happened? Inflation's gone not down, but up. Gas prices were 2% up from the previous month. Chicken, pork, beef, all more expensive. Eggs, 15% higher than last month. And what's Donald Trump's solution to all of this? The Secretary of Agriculture said yesterday Americans should just buy their own chickens to lay their own eggs. Is he serious? This is the Agriculture Secretary? Americans should buy their own chickens to lay their own eggs? Who are they kidding? As a candidate, Donald Trump also said, vote Trump and your incomes will soar. Your net worth will skyrocket. Now, to be fair, if you're a billionaire, he's telling you the truth. But if you're not rich, Donald Trump and Republicans' signature legislation is to cut Medicaid and Social Security and other programs by hundreds of billions of dollars in order to pay for tax breaks for the billionaires' club. Let's look at another claim by Donald Trump. The next economic boom will begin the instant Donald Trump has won 4 more years. That's his quote. He said, the next economic boom will begin the instant Donald J. Trump has won 4 more years. Well, let's look at what's actually happened. Last month, consumer confidence took its biggest nosedive in years. Retail sales dropped unexpectedly by 0.5%. Unemployment filings hit their highest level since last fall. The S&P 500, one of Donald Trump's favorite measuring sticks, has erased all the gains this year. And now Donald Trump has started a trade war with our closest trading partners. That is not what an economic boom looks like. This is economic anemia created by Donald Trump's own policies. I could go on because there's so many people being hurt and such policies of such foolishness. Donald Trump promised to take care of veterans, yet DOJ tried to fire hundreds of critical staffers from the VA, including crisis hotline staff and funding for cancer treatments. Housing costs are up. Electricity bills are up. If there's any golden age to be had under Donald Trump, it's a golden age for lawlessness. It's a golden age for billionaires and their club. It is not a golden age for Americans who work hard every day for an honest life and make ends meet. But I doubt we'll hear any of that from Donald Trump tonight. Finally, I'm proud to welcome 7 New Yorkers to tonight's joint meetings of Congress. These New Yorkers are examples of some of the very people who Donald Trump promised to help, but who he has left behind. First, I'm honored to welcome Emma Larson, a 12-year-old middle school student from Long Island with a rare genetic disease, which has been treated thanks to NIH funding research. Emma was dosed with spinal muscular atrophy as a 1-year-old. At the time, there was no cure. Her parents were anguished. But thanks to research and an NIH-funded lab in Cold Springs, New York, Emma received a breakthrough drug that changed SMA's prognosis. Emma's story shows why NIH funding is life-saving, and we should stand up against efforts to slash funding. Imagine slashing funding to NIH, which helps people like Emma live, so you can give a tax break to billionaires who are already doing very well, thank you. I'm also proud to welcome Alyssa Ellman, a disabled Army veteran, recently fired from the VA in Lockport, New York, in Western New York. Alyssa served honorably in Afghanistan and was diagnosed with a rare cancer associated with toxic burn pit exposure. Even while receiving treatment, she wanted to work. She wanted to serve her fellow veterans. She got a job at the Buffalo VA. But guess what? Last week, Alyssa found herself locked out of her computer and later found out DOJ eliminated her position. This woman served in Afghanistan, got burn pits, serving her country, working in the Veterans Administration to help other veterans. All of a sudden, no word, no notice, locked out of her computer and found that DOJ eliminated her position. Is that the golden age? For whom? Alyssa is one of 2,500 VA employees who were fired by DOJ, putting the care of our nation's veterans at risk. Tonight, I also welcome Tiffany Ramos from Rome, New York, who worked at the USDA office in Syracuse and was fired from her job helping rural farmers and businesses across upstate New York. Tiffany's just one of many USDA employees fired with no notice, despite years of service, leaving farmers across America wondering who's left to help them. It's amazing. These people worked hard. There was nothing against them. No, they didn't get a notice saying you didn't do this, you can improve this way, that way. They're just fired. It's cruel, it's heartless, it's nasty, it's lacking knowledge and fact-based, and it hurts America, in this case, our farmers. I'm also proud to welcome two Medicaid recipients, Jessica Martinez and Ana Medina Garcia. Jessica and Anna are both cancer survivors who depended on Medicaid to afford their medication and receive treatment. And finally, it is truly my honor to welcome Orna Nutra, mother of Omer Nutra, and Ruby Chen, father of Itai Chen. As we all know now, Omar and Itai were tragically murdered by vicious Hamas thugs right on October 7th, the day of the massacre, the day of the invasion of Israel. In the case of Omar's family, it wasn't until a year later they learned he was murdered by Hamas on October 7th. How cruel. Hamas let them worry. I met with them numerous times. Is our son alive? Is he dead? Is he okay? Is he wounded? Viciousness of Hamas, the viciousness. As for Itai, he was taken hostage and tragically murdered by Hamas on the border of Gaza October 7th. After months for fighting for his return, Itai's family learned that he was also murdered that terrible day. This is the depths of Hamas's cruelty. For months, they refused to even acknowledge that Omar and Itai had been murdered. They kept these families in anguish, in the dark. What a horrible feeling to wonder if your child is alive or dead. And Hamas, knowing it, dangles cruelly the possibility maybe they're alive when they weren't. The families wondered over and over again, are our children alive? Are they dead? And of course, tragically, their worst fears happened. What Omer and Itai's family have endured is beyond comprehension. I'm inspired by their perseverance, by their resolve to keep calling for the safe return of remaining hostages, even though their loved ones are gone, and for the return of the bodies of their loved ones, which is essential by Jewish law. There's no time to waste. I continue working for as long as it takes to finally bring every last hostage and the remains of the hostages no longer with us home at last. It's an honor to welcome all my guests to the Capitol.
Watch the President's address tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel at FedNet TV. This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, Incorporated, and provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without expressed written permission from FedNet is prohibited.